We believe that spiritual community enhances our life. You hear Linda say that every week, and we do. I do. I was recently just thinking how grateful I am that I have partners on this journey through life. Because when I was doing it all by myself, I was not doing a great job. It's amazing how we can mislead ourselves, isn't it? You know, I think we tell ourselves we're doing the right things as we're going way off course. So the brilliance of being in spiritual community together, particularly a spiritual community that is dedicated to our growth and our unfoldment and our highest self-expression, is sometimes we see for each other what we can't see for ourselves. And when we create a loving environment in which it is okay to assist each other, it's a beautiful and wonderful thing. So we've been looking this month at creating community, and I was very intentional about wanting to take this theme because as we are preparing to move into our new building, into our new space, it's very easy to move into the illusion that the space is the thing, that the form is the thing. Anybody ever do this in your life where you think the form is the thing? You say, boy, if I could just get some more money, then it's all solved, right? Or if I could just create a new loving relationship, then everything would be perfect. Anyone want to dispel that myth? No, we're not going to do that today. We sometimes mistake the thing for the experience that we're seeking. And so I'm thrilled, absolutely delighted. I was down, turns out is my custom. I didn't know I had a custom, but it's my custom on Saturday nights to go walk through the new building and see where we are and what's happened. And we have walls all the way around now. And so you can see, wow, this is where it's going to be. So it's been fun to kind of watch this idea unfold, and you can see where the sanctuary will be and where the stage will be, and it's a very wonderful thing. But I recognize that the thing is not what we're creating. It's simply a form so that we can continue to create this spiritual community that is an open, loving, welcoming presence in the world, that is dedicated to assisting those who are seeking to find inspiration and wisdom from within. And so we looked at this idea, we've been looking at it all month, around how do you create community, and we started with the idea that you start with the values. What are the shared values that we hold of inclusion and of empowerment and of open and loving and honest communication? And we look at those values that we say all values are good, but we've set for ourselves some standards for how we want to show up together. And then we work to keep bringing those values into being so that people feel that. And then from there, we look at the vision. Where is it that we are going? What is it that we are about? What is it we're seeking to create as a spiritual community? Ours is very different. I recognize this. Ours is a community. Ours is a spiritual philosophy that is about empowering individuals. And not that others aren't, don't get me wrong, but we take a little different approach to things. You know, in a lot of times when you look at church work, there is a very much a beautiful school of thought of people who are out there who are serving others. So they're helping the homeless to find homes, and they're giving food, and they're clothing, and all of that sort of thing, and that's a beautiful and wonderful thing. It's not that we don't do that. But I remember hearing it years ago as I started attending a very similar community, and they used the phrase that it is better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. Or in other words, if you give a person a fish, they'll eat for a day. If you teach them to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. And so our approach is, how do we empower individuals to learn that they have a power within themselves that conforms to their thought and belief, and that if we can change the thought and belief structure that we hold, we can create a new reality. That's what we do. Now, I also believe that it doesn't kill us to give somebody a fish while they're learning to fish, right? So I've seen some metaphysicians that can be a little harsh on that whole thing, right? We won't want to do that. But it's not the primary emphasis of our community. And that has to be okay. It doesn't have to be okay, but I've made it okay. Now, we do have wonderful service opportunities. We work with the homeless youth shelter. We do various things in the community, and that's a beautiful and wonderful thing. But the emphasis for who we are comes out of that vision that says each of us is a divine expression of this one life. Each of us is connected with the whole, and each of us has the power and the capability to bring greater good forward. And so we dedicate our ministry to serving those who would want to know that. It's a beautiful thing. So we looked at the vision, and we looked then at the principles. What are the organizing principles? How do we choose to show up in creating this spiritual community? We've said there's some things, a number of things, I won't go through all of them, but there's a number of ways that we do that. One is we absolutely believe that open, honest, loving communication is tantamount. Because you know what happens sometimes, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but sometimes people lie to each other. Now, sometimes they do really bold-faced lies like whatever, and then sometimes we just do these really subtle lies. How are you? Fine. Have you ever... Now, some of you that are not in relationship would not understand this, but for those of us that are in long term, sometimes our spousal units will say things that just aren't true. How are you? Fine. Somehow you know, just from that tone, things are not fine, right? And so we say, well, let's just have that conversation. Let's just be open and loving and go, what's up? Let's talk about it. Because what we believe is we're all God in form. We're all God beings. Now, do we all always express that highest vision for our lives? No. But if the truth of who we are is one with love, then we're already loving. Your behavior, my behavior, is not the determining factor of whether I will love you. And so we're learning to be more healthy in our open, honest, loving communication. We believe that ours, I spoke recently about like different models for ministry, and one model is the king or queen that sits on the throne and issues edicts. And I'm good with that model, except you guys don't ever participate. Because you have to have subjects in order to have, and he's like, you guys are not good at that at all. You all want to have your own opinions, and you all want to be empowered and all that sort of thing. So we say, so what we are is creating a community of leaders that are vision facilitators, that are helping to bring forth this vision. We don't operate by edict. You will do this. This is truth. We say, here are principles. You can work with those, and we're here to love and support you as we bring that forward. Today I wanted to speak around this idea of planning. And I think it's important that as we seek to create a spiritual community, or a community of any kind, that some planning goes into it. Now, what I would have you understand is the planning piece comes last, not first. Having clarity of values, having clarity of vision, understanding the organizing principles now creates the framework so that we can start to do some planning. When I came here, most recently to serve as your consulting minister, is the term we called 3.5 years ago, we had some issues. We became homeless, we became broke, and we became leaderless, all within just a short amount of time. A little exaggeration, but we moved out of our place, the minister was leaving, money was flowing out faster than it was flowing in. And so we said, wow, we have to do some things differently. And I said, good for you, I don't have a plan. But we will create a plan. And we began a process that we've been in for 3.5 years now, of various times and various groups of people coming together, revisiting the question of who are we, who do we want to be, how do we want to evidence that in the world, what is our ministry, how do we want to operate together, all of those things that go into creating community. And then we looked at what space would house that for us. And so we've had many meetings over a period of time to figure that out. Because the thing about when you come together, meeting together, it's nice to have a space to do that. In Utah, the winters get really cold, the summers get really hot. It's nice to have a controlled, conditioned environment in which to do that. So we are getting ready, somewhere around the 1st of September, to move into our new place. That started as an idea some time ago. But the new space does not make us the community. The community simply is inhabiting that. And so I think it's important for us to look at that. You see, all of that planning, all of that work, all of that inner spiritual work allowed us to do what we're doing. And basically, as I was saying to the earlier service, we are moving into a building that we could not afford just not too long ago. I know we planned that, can you imagine? So we said, we can't afford it, but what do we want? Because here's what happens. If you create out of vision, you figure out how to create the resources. If you create out of circumstances, you limit what is possible. And so what we've witnessed as we've moved forward, as we've built the consciousness and had an action plan, our resources have risen to meet the new opportunity. Yay, us. Hello. So Stephen Covey, in his 7 Habits book, says to us that in the second principle, he says, begin with the end in mind. And this is what we teach in Science of Mind. Begin with what you want. How often do we tend to create out of what we think is possible? Given my circumstances, my situations, my background, do I limit what is possible for me, or do I create out of the vision of possibility? And I would share with you, the divine always has a bigger vision than what you can personally see in this moment. And so we start to look at what is it that we're trying to do. What's exciting for me with this new building is that we have consciously looked at our needs and then sought to meet those. We've looked at the design that really enhances our youth and family ministry instead of having it be, there's a closet left over, let's stick them in there, right? We've looked at what kind of community are we trying to become? How do we want to do this? How does this best serve? And so we've had a vision for what this will be. And so in a month, we're going to inhabit what was an idea just not too long ago. And that's a wonderful thing. So Covey says, start with the vision. Start with the end in mind. Where do you want to end up? But I've also noticed this in this whole planning thing. It's not a big surprise to you that I'm not a big, great planner. I know this is shocking. Tend to be a little spontaneous about things. But I've also discovered in community, my spontaneity can become a hindering factor and not a blessing, right? So it requires us to plan, and I know really good planning people, and I surround myself with those because they bring a set of skills and talents that I don't have. But I've noticed in my own life that my life plan has not always worked out the way I planned it. Perhaps you're different. Perhaps at 18 you sat down and you planned out your entire life, and every step of the way has evidenced exactly that. Or not. Tends to be that. But does that mean we shouldn't plan? No. What it means is we should be open to adapting to what's happening. You know, a number of years ago when I was selling real estate up in Sun Valley, we were working on a deal. And Really lovely home, been on the market for a while. What we didn't know at the time was the market was slowing down. You know, you figure these things out after they've already happened, right? It'd be nice if you could get a little advance warning, but no, apparently not. So this property had been on the market for a while. The sellers were anxious to sell, and finally a deal came together, and it was a wonderful and beautiful thing. I had images of cashing commission checks and going shopping again, because it'd been a while, right? And so just a few days before it was scheduled to close, we got a call from somebody who was doing some investigating. They said, something's going on over there. The water bill has gone from here to here. Can somebody go check and see what's going on? So I went to go check and see what's going on, and I walked into a frozen house, because what had happened was one of the pipes had frozen on the top floor, spewing water, which then trickled down into the heating cooling system, which shorted the heating system. This is the middle of winter, 0 degrees outside, and it's just in a short amount of time, we had a frozen house. I, being of small-minded and limited vision, said, oh my God, we have a disaster on our hands. Not an uncommon, but I remember this, and the reason I share this, because a friend and a mentor of mine who was brilliant said, you know, this isn't all bad. This is not the end of the deal. I said, okay, tell me more. She said, look, everything that's happened is fixable. The house is insured. The people who are buying the house want to remodel anyways, so now they get to figure out what are their finishing touches, what carpet, all of the things that will get fixed out of this will get fixed according to their specifications, and the insurance company will pay for it. If you can just keep the whole thing together and everybody will be patient, everybody wins. So sure enough, everybody won. They were willing and it worked. And so I remember that, and I share that story because so often we tend to look at the circumstances and not look at the bigger picture. That there's possibilities even when our plan is not unfolding the way we want it to. Many of us have had over the last few years some version of adapting our plan for life to the realities that were happening around us, right? So the important thing for me in this planning, that's why all of the vision, the values, the principles, those all help us determine who we are. Then when we have figured out who we are, we can move into what do I want to do. If we get those confused, if we think what we do determines our well-being, then what happens if what you do changes? And we're living in a world that is rapidly changing. I say, you know, because when I was selling real estate, the market was changing. We didn't all get the advance notice, so we continued to do the things we used to do, thinking, it'll be fine. So I often say, you know, I was so successful in real estate, within just a few years, I was waiting tables again. Because I got attached to eating and paying bills and all that stuff. So, you know, but here's the thing. I had been a minister for many years. I identify myself as a minister. And what that means that I serve others, that my life is about being of service to others, helping them realize and recognize their own divinity. So even when I was in a church, or when I was a real estate agent, or when I was a waiter, who I am did not change. I simply found different avenues to serve. That's why I say we all have a ministry. We all have areas where we're called to serve. Some of us get to be called Reverend. Some of us get to be called Your Holiness, or other names that we keep to improving upon. Your Divine Eminence, you know, what would that kill you? I don't know. You know, actually, I was thinking, you know, we're talking about, we've got these 3 classrooms, and we're currently, because we're so creative, came up with some terms like big, medium, and small. So perhaps we could be more creative, and I think we will be having a contest, a naming contest. So I thought, while we're at it, why don't we come up with my name. My new name is Sacred Leader here, you know, just for... Or skip the title and just give me a raise. I'm good either way, right? So we move forward towards the vision, even realizing that sometimes our plans are going to change. But when we're clear about who we are, then we adapt to the realities around us. When I was looking at this, moving into this new building, I thought about how the conversations that we've had all the way along have been, how do we get into a new place? It's taken us a while. But each step has been a wonderful and beautiful thing. This place has served us so wonderfully. And so we take the next step. And then we take the next step after that, whatever that leads us to. But the importance is to recognize who we are, no matter what the housing is that we're in. Excuse me. So, my last thought about planning, because planning is a beautiful and wonderful thing, and then adapting is a wonderful and beautiful thing. And to me, it looks like recognizing the difference between cooking and baking. How many of you cook? How many of you like to cook? Let's ask that question. Okay. So for those of us that enjoy cooking, what we realize is that you learn some basic principles and then you just make it up from there, right? I look at a recipe, I look what's in the refrigerator and go, okay, close enough. You know, we'll either adapt the recipe or we'll, whatever. Close enough, and people are like, this is amazing. How did you do this? Well, I said, well, brilliant. What can I... Right? That's cooking. You can do a lot of that. Now, I have had some spectacular disasters over the years, but, that's a risk you play. Baking, however, is a whole different animal, isn't it? A pinch of this and a glob of that is not a good way to bake. If you use 2 tablespoons instead of 2 teaspoons in something, it can make for some very interesting results. So when you're baking, a recipe, a plan, and following that plan is a very good thing. When we're cooking, you can be much more creative. And I guess if I ever became a really good baker, I might know how to do that. I don't, so I stick with the recipe. But so too, I think in our own lives, we have to recognize that we can create plans, and we should. We do well to plan for our lives. And then we want to recognize and be willing to adapt and change those plans as becomes necessary. But the goal is always, what is the vision? What is the vision that I'm seeking to create? What is the vision for my life? And what I've come to realize, because I got clear about my ministry, then I realized that the way that I serve that ministry is really less important. So I brought the same vibe to being a waiter that I bring here. People would walk away and go, wow, that was amazing. I say. You got a little extra mojo along with your mojito, right? We are in an exciting and wonderful time, and so we're bringing together a community. Once again, we do this periodically. Every a period of time, we bring groups of people together in a co-creative process to look at what is the next step. Who do we want to be? What now becomes possible for us? I spoke recently about how we're expanding our service beyond Salt Lake. We'll still be here, but how can we help foster other centers for spiritual living? How can we be of service to our outlying region for those people that want to learn about these principles but may not have a center that they can go to easily? How do we network and reach out across the globe to help this Ukraine group getting formed? So we're really looking at how can we be a greater influence in the world? How can we make a difference? How can we teach more people to fish? And so it's a very exciting time. What we know is that we want to move, well, what we know. Here's what we know. The last Sunday in August will be our last Sunday here. What we hope, what we vision, what we dream is the first Sunday in September will be our first Sunday. And things are progressing well. I'm holding that high intention. We are looking at contingency plans if necessary. So again, stay on email, because if we have to do a temporary thing for a couple of weeks, you'll want to know where that is. We will tell you, I promise. We will tell you. But it's an exciting thing. The most exciting thing for me as I'm watching this, as I was walking through the building again last night and having my psychic moments, I could see classes happening and celebration services, and I just kind of witnessing what is coming in this beautiful space. And I thought, this was the idea that we sat with over and over and over. And now the manifestation of that vision has come about because we have been clear, because we have been inclusive, because we've allowed this vision to keep unfolding through us. And so it is natural for form to fit the spiritual impulsion. That's the way it works. And so as I'm witnessing that, I'm watching how form has always responded to our intention. When we needed a place to meet and no place that was available, my friend Carol Harris said, I've been dancing down at the Columbus Center and we should go there. I see us meeting there. She said, the only problem is they're not open on Sundays. So that's a little bit of a problem. But we went, we talked, and they became open on Sundays. So I say all of that to say it's great to have a plan, but plan from the vision and not from the circumstance. Circumstances will rise and change to reflect that vision once we've embodied it and once we plan from there. So, my friends, I'm grateful to be in spiritual community together. I'm grateful that we are here supporting each other and living that highest possible life. I'm grateful that we are here to create a loving, nurturing, empowering environment where people can discover their divinity and live happier, healthier, and more abundant lives. And I'm grateful to be on this journey with you. Let us pray. As we simply take this moment to recognize and realize that indeed we are a part of this one divine life, this one infinite power that is always and forever seeking its highest self-expression. The one life that has caused all of the planets to be in perfect balance and motion. That causes the rains to fall, the flowers to grow, and all of life to recreate itself. It is this one life in which we live and move and have our being. And so I recognize that it is indeed our opportunity to plan our life, and then it is also our opportunity to allow life to fulfill its plan through us and as us. As we come together in this sacred and holy space of remembrance, we know that which is true in our heart, that there is one life that is beating our heart and breathing our breath, and that delights in its self-expression in us and through us and as us. And because we are one with this divine intelligence, I'm simply knowing that the presence of wholeness is revealing itself as health and well-being and vitality. That the presence of abundance is revealing itself as peace and prosperity. That the presence of divine love is healing and nurturing our lives, allowing us to easily forgive, and in its place to choose love above other option. How good it is to bear witness to this divine truth, And so I simply invite you in this moment. If there is a burden of the heart or of the spirit, that into this sacred space we be willing to surrender it, to allow that divine possibility to emerge triumphant through us this day. How grateful I am for the healing, revealing presence of the divine. I know that we are each blessed, and we remember those blessings. And from this state of awareness, we extend blessings. We bless this spiritual community, knowing that it is divinely unfolding, in perfect timing and in divine right order. We extend a blessing from this place to our brothers and sisters around the planet. We're simply holding that high vision for a planet at peace, for a world that works for everyone. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of every faith, for we celebrate the many pathways to the divine. Wherever spiritual unfoldment is occurring, we name it good. How grateful I am to bear witness to spiritual truth being revealed. And so it is with a sense of joy and gratitude that I simply release this word into that divine law of mind, knowing that it brings forth the highest good for all concerned, in perfect timing and in divine right order. And so I give thanks, I name it good, as together we say, and so it is.